Algebra 2, D.11, graph an absolute value function. Okay, on the first one, maybe the second one or so, I'm going to kind of try to take it a little bit slow to show you exactly what's going on. But after a little bit, you're not going to have to do everything that I do, okay? So this is y equals the absolute value of x. If you're graphing an equation, what you're doing, without actually having to do it every single time, is putting numbers in for x and figuring out your y is, and then plotting those points and seeing what's happening, okay? So let's say 1, 2, negative 2, or positive 2. We'll do the positives first. Then negative 1 and negative 2, okay? So if I put 0 in for this x, the absolute value of 0, well, the absolute value of anything is going to be positive. 0 is not positive or negative, but we're just going to say 0. If we put the absolute value of 1 in, the absolute value of 1 is 1. If we put 2 in, the absolute value of 2 is 2. If we put negative 1 in, the absolute value of negative 1 is 1. If we put negative 2 in, the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. Okay, so let's figure out what's going on. Let's plot these. Oops, sorry. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, negative 1, positive 1, negative 2, positive 2. And look at those points. Hey, looks like that would just keep on going in that manner. And that would just keep on going in that manner. Okay, so here's the thing. The absolute value, it's always going to be V-shaped. Now it could be a skinny V, or it can be a fat V, just depending on what's going on with all of the numbers and stuff. But that's what an absolute value function is. It's a V shape. So on this one, the negative 5 is on the outside. That is very, very, very important. We already took the absolute value of x and got this. But let's see if we put a negative 5 on the outside. Let's use the same x's. Negative 5, absolute value of 0. The absolute value of 0 is 0. 0 times anything is 0. The absolute value of 1 is 1. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. The absolute value of 2 is 2. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Now, the reason I'm getting negative answers is because what's on the outside is negative. Now, careful on this. You take the absolute value of negative 1 first. The absolute value of negative 1 is a positive 1. Positive 1 times negative 5 is still negative 5. It's not negative times a negative is a positive because you have to take the absolute value first. Negative 5, absolute value of negative 2. The absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. Positive 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Now let's see what happens with these. 0, 0, 1, negative 5, 2, negative 10. Negative 1, negative 5, negative 2, negative 10. Do you see the V? Now this V was going up 1 over 1 every single time, and then up 1 over 1 every single time. This V didn't go up 1, up down, or down 1, up 1, or over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1. This one went down 5, over 1, down 5, over 1. You know why? Because that's basically what the slope is. So we've got to be careful with that. So our graph is going to look like this. To plot these, you'd plot the vertex first, where the V is, that's where the vertex is, and then you would do basically what the slope is. That being said, let's see what we can do with this. This is the same exact equation, just a positive 5 instead of a negative 5. So guess what? Instead of going down, it's going to go up. Up 5 over 1, up 5 over 1. 5 over 1, up 5 over 1. There's your V's. You know, these V's are going to be a whole lot prettier because it's going to be on computer. All right, let's see what happens here. 0, 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2. You don't always have to use these numbers. They're a good way to start out and see what's going on with it, though. All right, so if I put the absolute value of 0 minus 3, because I'm putting 0 in for the x and then subtract 3, the absolute value of 0 is 0. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. The absolute value of 1 is 1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2. 2 minus 3 is. The absolute value of negative 1 is positive 1. Positive 1 minus 3 is. See how we got those two the same numbers? Oops. The absolute value of 2 is, I'm sorry, the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So that's what happens. If x is 0, we get negative 3. If x is 1, we get negative 2, blah, blah, blah. So 0, negative 3, 1, negative 2, 2, negative 1, negative 1, negative 2, negative 2. Now we're back to that nice 1 over rise 1, run 1 type shape. You know why? Because there wasn't anything in front of the absolute value number. So whenever there's nothing there, it's a rise 1, run 1. Now what happened from this graph to this graph, because they're both the absolute value of x with a negative 3 at the end. So this graph started at 0, 0. This graph started at 0, negative 3. What this is a shift down 3. Down because it's negative. If this would have been a positive 3, then we would have, instead of going down 3, we would have started up 3 and then did the same thing. Okay. So this right here is going to be a shift down 1. Now there's something in here. It's kind of hard to explain. Okay, so because there's not anything else inside the absolute value except the number with the x, now let me show you what I'm talking about. When there's other stuff going on, that's when we need to be careful. But on this one, there's nothing else with the x. There's not a plus 4 or minus 5 with it. So whenever you're multiplying, even if you get a negative number and you take the absolute value of it, it's still going to be positive. So what we could do, we could move that 2 to the outside and minus 1, which means we're still going to shift down 1. But because there's not anything on the inside, because we haven't had it yet, it'll make better sense whenever we get to this. We're not going to shift any to the left or right. So our vertex is going to be 0, negative 1. Because there's not anything with the x, we're not going to shift anything left and right. Because this -1 is at the end, we're going to shift down 1. That's where we start. This is called the vertex. So 0, -1. And the 2 is basically your slope, rise over run. So we're going to go up 2 and over 1. That's how you're going to plot it on IXL. You always need to plot the vertex first, and then just go up 2 and over 1 and put a second dot. And when you put that there, it's automatically going to put its partner with it on the other side, and it's automatically going to draw the V. Okay, so -6 is on the inside. It's being multiplied with the x. When that happens, that's okay, because even if we multiply and get negative, we're still going to absolute value it and get positive. So I'm going to take the 6 out and keep the x in. There's nothing at the end, so it's like a 0. Plus 0 minus 0 doesn't really matter. There's just nothing there. So on the inside, there's not a plus or minus anything, which means that we're not going to shift left or right any. And on the end, there's not anything, or there is nothing. So we're not going to shift up or down any. So the vertex is going to be 0, 0, 0, 0. Even though the -6 was negative on the inside, the absolute value of -6 is +6. So it's actually going to be a positive V, an up V. So we're going to go up 6 and over 1. And then it would have automatically put it there. And then it would draw the V for you. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we have a +2 on the inside. We have a +2 on the inside. We don't have anything on the end, so we're not going to go up or down any. We're not shifting up or down. Now, this is something very, very important. If it is with the x, you're always going to do the opposite of it, because basically we're wanting it to make it 0. So if this is x plus 2 inside here, that means the vertex is going to be the opposite of +2, which is -2. Your x is going to be the opposite. Since there's nothing at the end, we're not going to shift up or down any, so that's going to be 0. So that's your vertex. So we're going to shift to the left 2 and not go up or down any. There's not a number in front, so it's just understood to be 1. So we're going to rise 1 and run 1. Rise 1 and run 1. And it's going to be like that. This is a left and right shift. That's an L/R. This is a left, right shift. This is an up, down shift. Left and right is always opposite of what you would think it would be. So the vertex, I assume that's a -1. Because this is a -1 here, our vertex is going to be +1. Since it's negative there on the outside, we keep it. So your vertex is going to be +1, -3. There's nothing on the outside of in front of the absolute value. So it's going to be rise 1, run 1. Okay. The vertex. The -5 is in front of the x. The -5 is being multiplied with the x. So we're not doing the opposite of -5. The opposite is whenever you have a plus or a minus with the x. So this, again, the -5 is being multiplied, so we can bring the -5 out and make it positive. There's not a plus or minus anything with the x, so there's nothing to make opposite. It's 0. The -8 is at the end, so the -8 is the downshift. And your slope is 5/1 because the 5 right there. So 0, -8, and then +5, +1. There's nothing to take on the outside because the x is There's nothing in front of the x. It's not being multiplied to anything. So your vertex, since it's a positive 3 inside with the x, then we think opposite. The positive 2 at the end is the up and down, so it'd be up 2. And your slope is going to be -5 because the -5 is already on the outside of the absolute value. So it's going to stay negative. So -3, +2, and a slope of -5. So we're going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. All right. I'm going to write this bigger down here. Okay. Now, here's something. They're not going to try to trick you to say in this lesson. So here's my point. If inside the absolute value you have a number with the x and then you have a plus or minus anything, you are going to have to do something first. If there's a number here and there's a number there, there's always going to be something that you can do. And it's pretty much always, if I can't think of an instance that it's not, this number is going to be able to go into this number, which means I could take a 2 out. I could factor a 2 out. 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Okay. Just taking a 2 out. We're dividing both parts by 2, but keeping the 2 inside first. Then, whatever this number is, whether it be positive or negative, since it's already on the inside, we're going to take it to the outside and make it positive, because the absolute value of positive 2 is 2. The absolute value of negative 2 is 2. But the x minus 5 is going to stay on the inside. What does that mean? The vertex the -5 is, it's x minus 5, so opposite of -5 is +5. There's not anything at the end, so that's 0. And the slope is going to be 2 over 1. So 5, 0, 2 over 1. Once you get this figured out, the graphing is not going to be any big deal. It's just figuring this out. Okay, so y equals, I'm just rewriting this to be able to write underneath it. Okay, there's 2 numbers on the inside. 2 goes into 8. So we're going to take the 2 out. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we just have 1x. 8 divided by 2 is 4, so we have that. The absolute value is still there for now. And then the -3. The absolute value of 2 is 2, so we take the 2 to the front, but the x plus 4 stays inside, and the -3 comes down. So the vertex is at -4, -3, and the slope is 2 over 1. -4, -3, +2 over 1. We're almost there. 3 more. Okay. So on this one, see there's not a number with the x, so there's nothing that I'm going to have to take out like I'm going to have to take something out over here. But there's nothing to take out here. So basically we're good to go. We just have to figure out what we're going to do. So the -5 is x minus 5, so the opposite of -5 is +5. The number on the outside is -3. Well, the slope this time, we've always been talking about the number in front of it. Negative absolute value of x minus 5 minus 3. The negative is a -1. It's understood to be -1. So we're going to go down 1 and over 1. So 5 -3. And then we're going to go down 1 over 1. All right. Two things on the inside, right? 2 goes into 10. Hey, that's good. But then this time, this number is negative. So whatever this number is, whether it be positive or negative, you're going to keep it. That's what you're going to factor out. So really what you're doing is you're doing -2 divided by 2, which is 1. 1x is the same thing as x. Then you're doing -10 divided by -2. And negative divided by negative is a positive 5. Since the -2 is inside the absolute value and we're being multiplied right here, we're going to take the 2 out. But the x plus 5 stays. So your vertex is going to be -5, -4, and your slope is going to be 2 over 1. -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your slope is 2 over 1. Last one, guys. Nothing really fancy with this one. 3 goes into 21, so we're going to take a 3 out. If we take a 3 out, we're dividing both of these by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so we have 1x. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Whether this is positive or negative, it's still being multiplied. It's still on the inside. We want to take it to the outside, so we're going to make it positive. So your vertex is at -7, +3, and your slope is 3 over 1. -7, +3, and your slope is 3 over 1. So from here, you're going to rise 3 and run 1. Both ways. That's it. Have fun. I will be here for you guys on this lesson, promise.